Well, hello guys, welcome back. So today's god of the day is indeed gonna be Apollo. You're probably gonna see this years later and wonder what I'm talking about. I was preparing for it all day long, ended up doing a ritual bath, doing a candle, doing the incense, doing the meal offering, doing the sacred music. It was all too much for Loki. And Apollo is the one that yelled at me for losing my temper with Loki because Loki is my main deity and I know how Loki is and what's the matter with me. Apollo is kind of divine justice in a sense, and he is who Zeus sends out when you've done wrong. So Apollo was already in residence when Loki threw a meltdown, and even though Loki shouldn't have been grabby, that is just Loki's nature. And Apollo found fault with me for losing my temper when I know Loki's divine nature. You know, one of the maxims of Delphi was know thyself. Also, know thy patron God. And I knew this, and I should not have lost my temper. But he understands we're human, and he does have that passionate side as well, where he is exceptionally calm. He has the longest fuse, almost, other than Hades, of the Pantheon. That said, when he does go off, he goes off spectacularly. Some say, and I'm not sure if it's true or not, that even the other gods were a little bit of, weary of making him angry. Um, he's god of many things, obviously. God of light. Some say the sun. Some people that support Helios as a separate deity are going to argue over that, but some people say light, sunlight. All light, all purification. Reminding humans when they're in the wrong with the gods and that you need purification, not in the Christian idea of this is a sin or that is a sin, but this is wrong to do at this time, and you know you did the wrong thing. You have to get straight with the gods. And obviously, we can't go to Delphi or anything to go get purified today, so you have to do whatever it seems sensible to do with your gods. I had to, since I had a meltdown with Loki, make up with Loki, put back together, put the batteries back into the annoying clock that plays music because as Loki's pride and joy, and put it back up. And, only once I was sure I had made up and that Loki was okay, and we spent some time on Pinterest, and that was all, making up and repairing the relationship. Only then, when Loki said, okay, you can keep going, I just wanted your attention, wanted your love, and I felt terrible. Only then is Apollo like, you can do it. And I said, I don't deserve really to be doing this because how could I lose my temper before I do a video for the god of calmness, logic, and reason? He goes, no, you don't, but you're the only one we have. So it was kind of Apollo's dressing down. He can be a very wonderful god to work with, and like I said, I had done all the lovely ritual things today. And that aspect of working with him can be very rewarding because he can get you into the place that if you pray to him, he can get you into the place of slowing down, doing that ritual bath, doing, the cleanliness, doing, all the right and order. I have noticed if you work with him, you're going to kind of gear up then, and maybe if everything isn't as orderly as it could be, you might get a little distracted and sidelined until you get everything in order. And that can be super annoying because I tend to just throw stuff everywhere. I'm not messy, but stuff just tends to go everywhere sometimes. But if I'm working with Apollo, then I'm wasting half my day putting everything just so, and nothing ever gets done. It's not a major complaint, but it is an annoyance for me. So if you're one of those people that you're normally cluttered, you might have to reach a compromise and go, this is just who I am at this point. He might not agree with you, but he shares a temple, as we've discussed on the channel before. 6 months out of the year, it's the Apollo temple. 6 months out of the year, it's Dionysus temple, or they shared a temple. Unless they have radically changed things, I don't believe it's legal to do pagan rituals at the temples. And, as I was doing research to make sure I know what the hell I'm talking about today, his oracle at Delphi was taken from him. Now, I'm not sure if they tried shortly before or after, but people have tried to bring back the oracle, and Apollo's been silent. There is no living oracle at Delphi. There's certainly been people who have said that they are an oracle, of Apollo. You can find plenty of them online, but there is no, handpicked by Apollo, working with the priests of Apollo oracle at Delphi. In fact, if you go to Greece, you will notice they will go out of their way to stick to science and reason, which is kind of ironic since he covers that as well. And just kind of talk about, in one way the gods are beautiful, but we don't believe in them anymore. Where, for us that are pagans, I was watching that woman's presentation. This has to do with Apollo, of brown-eyed, blue-eyed children. And she says very swarmy, because she knows better than everyone else, that if we could teach the Greeks that the sun is not a god and doesn't drive his chariot across the sky, I could just feel his sister like surge forward in me, or just serving the person in me that serves Apollo surge forward in me. And if I swear to the gods, had I been in the same room and had a bow and arrow, that woman would have been dead. It was instantaneous of, what do you mean your god is the only god? And how dare you disrespect Lord Apollo in my presence, you ignorant peasant? So it would have been homicide, but I think it would have been completely justifiable. He can make people very passionate about him. One thing you're going to run into if you work with him, or you work with any Greek gods, but it seems to be more so with Apollo, and it makes sense given that he's a god of order and right doing. You know how Odin, you'll run into a lot of by the book heathens that don't like anybody else? Not all heathens are like that, but you know what I mean? You'll run into a lot of by the book Hellenists that are, nobody else should be working with these gods, or, whatever. As far as I can tell, Apollo goes where Apollo pleases, and Apollo is served the way he wants to be served. So the way I serve him may not be the way you serve him, and so forth and so on. Obviously he's connected to the theater somewhat. He is the god of music and he is the god of the chorus, and he does overlap a lot with Dionysus. If you find Dionysus there, you're probably going to find Apollo there in some way. He also has the title of Wind Wolf. So he is connected to wolves, but he's also connected to dispatching wolves because he is the god of herds, like cattle and that. That's where we get the story of Hermes stealing his cattle. And he is connected to sheep and shepherds and everything else. Some say because he protected against pestilence and disease. He's a god of medicine as well, and a god of keeping away pests and diseases from, your property and your livestock. But also, I think, we have associations that were lost, and they say for farm crops as well. So, um, overall, working with him is, it is really rewarding, but it's one of those things where, like today, since he was displeased that I had the argument with Loki, the inspiration has clearly withdrawn. And I worked all day at getting this inspiration, and I tried to do right doing all day, but because I lost it at the very end, like 2 inches from the goal line, the inspiration went away. But that's dealing with Apollo. He can have that very warm, benevolent nature that, I saw an article written by Godspouse once, where he makes them feel like a prince or princess in the center of the universe and everything else, and he's pursuing them, and it's warm, and it's romantic, and it's rapturous. Or he can get very cold, very distant, very fast because you have done the wrong thing, and now Apollo is absolutely disappointed in you. And Apollo doesn't understand why you have done this. And it's not that personality Loki has where Loki will snap back to cheerful awful fast. Apollo can stay distant for a while, and sometimes when he goes away, it's like the sun has gone behind a cloud. You don't know if you'll ever see him again. That's one of the things of, why I'm sometimes reluctant to work with him. Historically speaking, people were a little in awe of him because he had the ability to absorb the power of gods, goddesses, people he worked with. So it was kind of a frightening thing, like how he took over Delphi and everything, and he absorbed that. So it's kind of one of those things where he can scare people because usually if you look at a lot of his romances, they did not turn out well for the intended. Some did, a lot didn't. You can, look those stories up. And it's going to be an awfully short video because I can just feel he's pulled back to a distance, and it's not to the point I have with Poseidon, because Poseidon actually had calmed down today and had come around for a while and was like, "Oh, hey, how are you?" It was like he didn't get angry the other day, but with Apollo, it's more this cold energy. When he's mad, I am completely done with you. You have totally disappointed me. There is absolutely no use for you. It's borderline mean. It is borderline mean. It's you have done the wrong thing. You need to purify yourself. But then when you purify yourself, he is still angry. He is still angry. He will be calm later, but it will be at Apollo's discretion. You cannot speed up the process of Apollo going from angry and done with you to perhaps he will try one more time. It's been about 3 years since the last time I saw him, so this is a deity that he will give you a set amount of time, it feels in my personal experience, and if you're not on board, Apollo is gone. I've heard people say that about Hades. Apollo is the same way. He will give you that set amount of time, and if you're not on board and you're not performing up to Apollo's level, Apollo is gone. He does kind of have that more demanding energy, which is why I love Dionysus a lot more. Dionysus is like, frankly, surprised that you're headed in the right general direction. Good for you. You're one of my priestesses, and you haven't set yourself on fire today, so cheers. you know, Dionysus is his polar opposite. Dionysus is a god of partying, enjoyment, and everything. It doesn't mean that Apollo can't enjoy himself, but it does mean that, if you're not getting with the program, if you're over there behaving more like his brother than himself, he may lose his patience with you. To get on his good side, obviously, the arts, music specifically. He loves music. Today I was playing the hymns for him, and that seemed to please him. He's not the warmest of the gods, in my experience. To those he loves, he's rapturous, and he wraps them up in love and, sometimes romance, depending on the relationship. And he's this very loving, charismatic deity. With me, it's kind of this more, not cold, but, it's love and it's friendly. But I've always told Apollo, Lord Apollo, I said, "You feel perpetually angry with me." And he'll shake his head and say, "No." And then, because he can get angry rapidly fast with me, I will say, "No, I'm sorry, my lord, but you truly do feel angry today. Have I done something to displease you?" And then he does get mad. And Dionysus just over there, like, "You two do not belong together." So, he is a wonderful god. He really is. I think we talked about the music, the prophecy. He's definitely athletic looking. Um, Considered the, paragon of male beauty. A handsome male is called an Apollo, or used to be. Um, and he definitely is a god that I find it sometimes challenging to work with because, kind of like Poseidon, I don't quite live up to his standard. He's not a terrible god by any means, but I'm kind of more lax and I have limited, health. And it has nothing to do with the health. He will work with you if you have bad health and everything. He certainly will. But it's a thing of you're repeatedly not meeting my expectations, and my expectations are so terribly low. So we have that kind of, on again, off again relationship. I may not see him for 3 more years. But I am happy for the people that can work with him, because the people that can work with him and they serve him and they love him, I think they end up becoming more Hellenistic. They end up going into the pantheon full throttle, and I've always been reluctant and hung back. And I don't think Apollo has much patience for that. I actually find out I'm getting along more now with Artemis than I am with Apollo, which is strange. It's kind of flipped. And she's like, I don't know why you're wasting your time. Come hunt in the woods. You know, you are more of a girl to run in the woods and run free and howl with the wolves and hunt with the doggos and have fun. What are you wasting your time trying to be something you're not? You don't belong in this temple. Come on, girl, get aboard. I'm like, okay. And I'm like confused because he is the one that worked with women over 40 or 50, I believe it is. And she's usually the one for young ladies. But I'm like, hey, whatever, it works for me. So, I might be going through a period where if Artemis shows continued interest, his twin, obviously his twin sister, I might, end up flipping around, end up, working more with her. And it's one of those things where, they dearly love each other. You're usually not going to serve one without the other showing up, and you're definitely not going to serve one of them without parts of the Pantheon or the whole Pantheon showing up. Honestly, on a scale of Dionysus to, say, Zeus, Apollo is pretty high up there, right under Zeus for being able to work with. Though I often, as I've gotten older, I found it easier to work with Zeus. And I found it easier to talk to Zeus because, in a way, please take this the right way, it's easier to talk to the adult head of the family sometimes. And sometimes when I'm talking to Apollo, I'm like, well, you are pretty high up there. You are, the dispenser of your father's justice, but at the same time, you're not your father. And I think I accidentally said once, well, I'd like to talk to your father. And Apollo just looked at me for the longest time before I could tell the conversation was over. That said, tomorrow he might be waking me up super early because I watched videos on this channel, see what I'd said already about Apollo, and be like, the sun is out. Come greet me. You've got to literally be kidding me. Come greet me, the sun is out. Lord Apollo is below freezing. Come greet me. Poor Dionysus kept trying to drag me out, and Hermes kept trying to drag me out today because I didn't feel good, and I didn't feel good, and they were trying to at least drag me out on the porch, and they're like, come salute Apollo. It's sun, we have science on this planet. Come salute Apollo, think it's a really good idea. Fine, Lord Apollo. No, you have to mean it. Put your whole heart into it. Like, you don't have to wave at the sun or anything, but come out and be fucking grateful before he kills you with plague arrows. Wait, what? And it was this idea of Apollo's been trying to get your attention, but guess what? All of Apollo's animals are wolves, ravens, crows, I think hawks too, dolphins, all these animals I was already getting from someone else, and Apollo was practically throwing wolves and crows and ravens at me, and I'm like, boy, Odin's really going out of his way. I never knew he loved me this much. I'm so honored. And Odin, of course, is like, yeah, baby, I'm here for you. And Apollo was probably just taking one arrow after another and flinging them at Odin, and Odin was probably like, Odin likes to grind Apollo's gears in this house. And sometimes Loki loves Apollo, they are best friends and they are blood brothers, and sometimes Loki can't stand him because Loki. So, we actually went on longer than I thought I would. But, you know, um, I'm kind of sad we don't have a deeper relationship. We do have a long running relationship, but it's for very brief periods of time. Like it's like a week or so, maybe a couple months or so. And then, he did ask me today, he said, what are you afraid of? I said, honestly, I'm afraid of losing the channel. And he just kind of stared at me. And I said, well, you already have a stress that any day you come in, YouTube could have just shut down your channel for any reason. They don't owe us a reason, okay? It's like updated in your YouTube terms of service. They shut you down for absolutely any reason. It's kind of always been there, but they've made sure we are reminded. And it is a Lokean channel, and I do always have that fear, and I'm trying to do that balance of Loki, something else to be interesting, Loki, something else to be interesting. And Apollo wasn't having none of it. He's like, you ungrateful. I am here. I am Lord Apollo. I am a Greek god talking to you. And I'm just kind of looking at him like, you really are intense. Um, All that said, all the problems we have, he is a loving God. Poseidon's a loving God. Once he got over being mad at me and proving he was Poseidon, he was actually downright hospitable today and coming around trying to spend time with me. And I think Apollo was a little lost because Apollo, and I've noticed this pattern too. Once I start spending time with Apollo, that's when Poseidon remembers Poseidon loves me, and that's when Poseidon comes over. It's kind of terrible, and Apollo's not about to fight his uncle on it. He's not Athena by any stretch of the imagination. I love Apollo, but he's not Athena. And his uncle will kind of come over and just kind of be the glorious god of the sea, and Apollo's wonderful, and he can do healing and music and everything else. It's like, oh my god, Poseidon's finally talking to me. I'm so sorry, Apollo, but hold that thought, Poseidon. And I'm sure that doesn't help either. Full disclosure, when you deal with one, you deal with the whole family. So I hope you guys enjoy that. I'm sorry, but I told you guys I would keep it real. I'm not gonna come on here and go, oh yeah, Apollo and I are best friends. I ride in the sunshine every day and he loved me so much. No, some days it's like I love you, and some days it's like you have disappointed me for the final time. Go back to serving Dionysus. And he said that to me one time. And I went to Dionysus, and Dionysus is like, let's go to the club. I feel so sorry. And that was another thing. Apollo's not shy. He has a complicated love life, but he knows damn well I was in the club today, and he was just looking at me in the judgmental way Apollo can get of looking at you like, you were in the club today. You would have been there too, but you were in the club today. You know what? Okay. Okay. So I swear I do love him. So if you guys like what you see, like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.